Welcome back to the Bronx Tales presented by House Enterprise. This is Will Tondo, joined by James Voices of the House Enterprise Network. And with all the sports craziness, people forget it is opening day starting tomorrow. And we already have our first rain out. First game of the 162 game season. Fortunately, it is not our Yankees, but
gotta love New York.
Rain out. Gotta love the New York weather. Fingers crossed that the Yankees still get to play, because I would be very upset. But we're here. For those of you who don't know what the Bronx Tales, it was a blog series on the House Enterprise Network. We did a couple live streams throughout the year, and this is just going to be an opportunity for any Yankees fan throughout the season, event sesh, talking shop, whatever the case might be, all are welcomed. And we're just going to go live on the house channels and go over the topics of the week and just keep it casual, keep it fun, keep it light, and get things going. So James, first guest of the 2024 season, how are we doing? And how are we feeling about our New York goddamn Yankees?
I'm doing great. Not understanding a lot of the talk that's been going around the Yankees fan base, honestly, especially this week with Montgomery signing with the Diamondbacks. But, that's the Yankee fan base. It's complete chaos sometimes. We just want to win. I'm sure you're going to go through this the same way. I'm going to try and be as unbiased as I can. But we are both Yankee fans, and we root for this team constantly. And I'm just excited for the season, man. I've been anticipating this ever since Soto got here. I think most people really liked what Cashman did over the summer, how he responded. Obviously, there are issues. We're going to get into it. Areas of concern for the team this year. But as far as Juan Soto playing in a Yankee uniform, the talent, the lineup looks better. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's funny enough, because obviously last season we're going to forget about it. It was a disappointment. It was, a lot of just a lot of heartaches and headaches, and it's a shame because you get a Cy Young season out of Gerrit Cole, which we're obviously gonna talk about the void that he leads, and fingers crossed it's nothing more than a couple months. You get a Gold Glove season out of Anthony Volpe, and listen, I am the firm believer that any season that is not a championship is a failure. This is a franchise and an organization that making the playoffs doesn't matter. Winning 100 games doesn't matter. We have not been to a World Series since 2009. You need to make a World Series and win a World Series, because you're seeing teams' windows close and reopen faster than this long, treacherous, baby bombers that now we only have Aaron Judge, and this round 2 revival of young players, and we're looking for help elsewhere. So, it is one of those things where every year is a must win. And clearly the moves they made this season showcase that. We got more left-handed hitting. Juan Soto is a put the cards on the table and shove it. But on the flip side, the pitching was not solidified. I think, and that I think that's a first thing that we can hop off the bat is this pitching on the New York Yankees. So with Gerrit Cole obviously falling to injury, and we still do not know the extent for the next couple of weeks. We know there's no UCL tear, which is very grateful, but Gerrit Cole is also someone who is a workhorse, and something where, we don't want to rush him too fast, but I know he's going to probably want to be on the field as fast as possible. We're leaving the rotation to Nestor Cortez, Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, the new addition, Clark Schmidt, and Luis Gil. Or Gio. Mm-hmm. Gil? I'm always bad at pronouncing.
Yeah, whatever. Rodon,
whatever the case might be.
It doesn't matter.
So it is definitely one of those things where, is it the strongest rotation in baseball? Absolutely not. Could moves have been made? Absolutely. Did they anticipate? My biggest, gripe with what people's perceptions are is obviously the team not doing more than they could have. They made offers on Blake Snell. They made some type of offer or conversations with Jordan Montgomery. We just found out that he joined the Diamondbacks on a 1-year, $25 million deal. Whatever. I think that's a perfect sweet spot that I'm surprised that never progressed forward. But clearly, there was no reunion in the works with Jordan Montgomery. They had a trade offer for Corbin Burns. They had one for Dylan Cease as well. They offered a ton of money to Yamamoto. The Yankees, even before the Gerrit Cole injury, wanted another starting pitcher.
Yeah.
It now comes down to hoping on these young guys like a Clayton Beater to maybe throw a spot start, hoping for a reclamation of both Nestor Cortez and Carlos Rodon, hoping for Marcus Stroman to play like he did when he was in Toronto, and hoping that Clark Schmidt becomes the next Mike King and somewhat better. But what are your thoughts on this rotation? And, how are we feeling overall?
Well, before I get into the rotation, usually, and listen, I think the Yankees are going to have a really good season this year, but usually when you use the word hope a lot, it doesn't really work out. We kind of did that last year a lot. We hoped Donaldson would be coming back, having a bounce back year. Didn't happen. We hoped Volpe would be the next Derek Jeter in year one. Didn't happen. Even though I like Volpe and we think he's going to be a good player, the expectations are really high. Right? We were hoping Judge had a full year being healthy. Didn't happen. A lot of hopes. We were hoping DJ LeMahieu would not be terrible in the first half of the season. Didn't happen. So when it comes to hoping, it most of the times doesn't work out. However, I do think a lot of players on this pitching staff definitely have some like a chip on their shoulder and things going for them. Like Rodon was freaking awful last year, brutal. He doesn't even need to be that great to be vastly better than he was last season. And I really like the Stroman addition. I think Marcus Stroman would easily be the second best pitcher on the Yankees last year. I mean, wouldn't you say? Right? And you obviously hope Nestor's healthy. That's obviously a big if. But as far as the pitching staff goes for the Yankees, we've seen them perform. It's not a question about that. It's if they're healthy. And obviously, Cole is the guy that he's your rock. He's the dude that, you expect to be healthy every 5 starts. I mean, he's so unlike any other pitcher like that. He's consistently out there, and he's not going to be there at least for the first 2 months. So it's obviously a big loss. Gerrit Cole pitched better than any pitcher did last year, and the Yankees didn't make the playoffs. So I think, as valuable as he is, every 5 days he's pitching. Right. And yes, they won a lot of pretty much every game. Most of the games that he pitched last year, they won. If they didn't, it was because it would screw it up at the end, or if there was that one Red Sox game where Cole didn't have it. So obviously, but with one pitcher, as great as he is, we really need him for the postseason, I think. And I don't think it's enough to really freak out too early about.
Exactly. And again, it's a long season. Moves can be made. I still believe that despite how long the season is, these games in April and May do matter in some regard. I remember that one season, which was 2 years ago, maybe 3 seasons ago, where it's like you lose a couple BS games to the Orioles, who are not the Orioles of today, and you change your playoff ability from hosting a game to then going to Boston and losing in the wild card, or whatever the case might be. So that leads us into obviously expectations and projections. So every season, I think you and I can both say that as Yankee fans, we think this team has what it takes to take it to the next level. And they usually ranked at the top of most projections. And in this season, there's still a lot of projections and standings and all of this stuff that has the Yankees coming up, as a AL East favorite, an American League favorite, in the conversation, except for one that dropped this week, which was Baseball Reference. And Baseball Reference has the New York Yankees at 62-100 record, last place in the, or one of the, that's one of their worst projections. They have them as the lowest. They have them as 82-80, which would also be tied with the Cardinals and the Nationals as one of amongst the worst across baseball. This isn't one of those things where I will say hand up, I just cannot buy it. This team fundamentally got better, and we have to assume that players are going to regress better. We saw that Anthony Rizzo in April and May, hot take, was having MVP type of season, both offensively and defensively. Gets the concussion, falters off. Giancarlo Stanton, straight decline. Nothing was coming with Anthony Volpe. Now you enter into a lineup that is more balanced. Aaron Judge is now healthy. Let's knock on wood on the healthy. You're adding in two more competent outfielders to balance, not only the defensive side of things, but also the offense in Juan Soto and Alex Verdugo. Year two in Anthony Volpe, and Gleyber Torres is still one of the best hitters on this team.
In a contract year too, by the way.
In a contract year, which we can definitely get to either today or some throughout this season, because I am a big Gleyber Torres fan, and I don't think there's many second basemen across the MLB that you can confidently obtain and then put ahead of him at this moment.
But we want to sweat, you know what I mean? Like, we want him to have a dominant year, get his money, because if he has a bad year, that means he's not getting paid.
And again, for a season like this, where it's kind of pushing the chips on the table, where, Aaron Judge and Gerrit Cole's windows are getting a little bit lower. You have a ton of impending free agents, the biggest being Juan Soto, who I think every Yankee fan would love to sign to 10 more years before he even, takes an official pitch, on opening day tomorrow. But there are a lot of players that are on this roster that probably will not be on this team this year. I think you need to confidently say, I don't care, just go and win the World Series and you figure it out later. At the end of the day, the Rangers are doing fine and they added some pieces. Year after year, these teams figure it out. This team just needs to shove everything and get ready. But in terms of those expectations, I mean, what do you think? Is, 82 and 80 the baseline? Is it the rocks, the dumpster bottom? To put it into perspective, they have the Boston Red Sox, who have no pitching and half the offense at 89 and 73. They have the Blue Jays at 96 and 66. The Tampa Bay Rays, who I still don't understand their system, because they always have people injured. They never have a full starting rotation, and they have random pieces and somehow still projected at 100 wins. And then, of course, the Baltimore Orioles at 104 and 58, who, added a Corbin Burns to the top end of their rotation. But what do you see at these expectations, and, what are you feeling?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. First of all, let's start with the Yankees' expectations. I'm going to sound like a spoiled Yankee fan, but I legitimately think this is the case. I root for other teams that lose and stuff. So my expectations for every season is never really that high. But the Yankees need to make the World Series this year. Minimum, the base has to be a competitive American League Championship Series. That's the minimum, because we've seen them have competitive American League Championship Series, and it's not enough. So they got to get over the hump. They got to beat the Houston Astros this year. They have enough to do it. The Houston Astros, listen, we don't know. Obviously, it's the beginning of the season. Our previews are thrown out the window tomorrow, right? Especially with baseball, because baseball is very unpredictable. I don't think anybody had Texas winning the World Series last year before the season started, especially knowing that, DeGrom's not going to be a participant. So it comes down to, like, they need to get there. This is it. They have Juan Soto locked in for a year. Worst case scenario, he leaves. If I'm the Yankees, that can't happen. But you can't think too far ahead. You have to take advantage of this year. Gleyber has a reason to play well this year. Stanton has a reason to play well this year. Rizzo does, right? I think this roster, from a lineup standpoint, is good enough to withstand Aaron Judge injuries. It should. Having a superstar in Juan Soto there, also more balance in the lineup. You should also get, if Rizzo's healthy, should get the season that we thought he was going to start getting when he was hitting 300 with, the shift changes and all that. So I see the Yankees' expectation is you got to get to the World Series. Okay. I think we both align on that. Here's my questions. I'm so sick and tired of the people of baseball reporters and these baseball nerds. Let's face it, they're nerds. Okay, saying the Yankees, the lowest projection is 60 wins. Like, when was the last time the Yankees had 60 wins? And did they have the future Hall of Famers of Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Gerrit Cole on the roster? You're basically saying, like, oh yeah, we expect the entire Yankees roster to get injured. And guess what? A lot of that happened pretty much the only thing that went right last year was Gerrit Cole's Cy Young performance. It's the only thing that went right. Aaron Judge missed half the season. Stanton was terrible. Rizzo fell off a cliff after his injury. We didn't have outfielders in the outfield. Like, Donaldson was a complete dud. Like, Volpe, like, was solid. I'm not going to get on him, but, like, you know, asking him to clean up the mess that was last year was ridiculous. Pretty much. And Gleyber Torres, another good point. Gleyber was really good last year. So, but that was pretty much it. So, and the Yankees won 82 games. So, considering that the roster is way better, you're basically saying that, yeah, we expect all these guys to get hurt. That's why we expect them to not make the playoffs. If your analysis is, well, I don't think the Yankees will win the division. You know, I expect the Orioles to win the division.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
But considering that there are people out there that are, listen, they're expecting or previewing the Yankees to miss the playoffs. That means on paper, they think there are 6 teams in the American League that are better than them. With more playoff spots now than ever, I cannot fathom why that's the case.
Yeah. And
dude, I'm sorry to say this. I'm sick and tired of hearing about the goddamn Blue Jays who have done nothing year after year. The Rays have done nothing since their World Series appearance. Okay. And Baltimore, credit to them. They were a really young team. They were awesome to watch last year. They got smoked by the Texas Rangers. Okay. So I think the whole division has a bunch of really good regular season standout teams, and they'll be competitive. Like, the Red Sox are probably the worst team in the division by far. They're not like a truly terrible team. So it's a good competitive division. But I'm sorry, man. I'm just not like looking at them like juggernauts.
No, I'm right there with you. And my thing is, like I said in the beginning, it's World Series or bust. I think, though, this has to be the year where if the Yankees do not make a World Series. Now, again, I know the World Series, it's a long season, and I'm trying to be realistic on this show. If they do not make the World Series, there needs to be some massive changes. It needs to be a clearing of leadership. It needs to be a clearing of personnel, and there needs to be some serious questions in how is this ship being run and navigated right now. Because, you know, this team has too many talented players and pieces to miss another playoffs and not make a World Series.
Well, missing the playoffs would be a complete disaster.
Complete disaster. You know, missing if you know, and again, I do not want to put this bad juju out there. If this team is, you know, having some issues come August, sell.
Yeah.
Sell and like, I don't know if a Juan Soto is a type of sell, but again, I'm not thinking about that. We're not having that conversation. We're not putting it out.
I think you do everything you can to keep Soto.
Yeah,
you know, I think you overpay, you do whatever you need to do. I mean, obviously,
an alternate reality that we don't need to discuss at the moment. But
Scott Boras is looking to make his due back next offseason because this offseason was not good for him. So yeah.
Non-Yankee related, but I'd love to at least touch upon the Boras bag fumbling right there, because there were a lot of players on his roster of talent that could have easily been New York Yankees and were in discussion very early on. Obviously, Cody Bellinger, who was looking for somewhere north of $200 million, opted to go back to the Cubs on a shorter deal with opt-outs. And then, of course, the pair of pitchers in Blake Snell, you know, a Cy Young winner who a lot of Yankee fans did not want to spend the money, thought it wasn't a beneficial fit at Yankee Stadium. I disagree. Anytime you get a Cy Younger, you bring him into the roster, no matter the case may be. And having Blake Snell in a situation like now would have been pretty freaking dandy. He goes to the San Francisco Giants. And then, of course, Jordan Montgomery yesterday, a 1-year, $25 million deal to the Diamondbacks. Scott Boras, not the man you want to have representing you anymore, huh?
Well, listen, this is definitely the first offseason where he definitely overplayed. He definitely overplayed his hand. And, I think people just looked at it like, yeah, we don't feel comfortable paying Blake Snell all this money when we know like there's a really good chance he completely sucks in the first year of his contract. Like he has this, and he doesn't pitch for length, right? Like he doesn't go many innings. He obviously was a Cy Young Award winner. He's obviously pitched on a team that's went to the World Series, played really well in that World Series, right? Part of very controversial pullout, right? So, and Montgomery coming off his high point as a pro, right? Pitching in the World Series for the Texas Rangers, helping them. A few years ago, Brian Cashman didn't see him as a rotation guy for the postseason. So obviously, in hindsight, it doesn't look great. Although Bader probably is a big reason they went to the CS that year. People kind of forget. They kind of just look at it, oh, like Bader's gone, was injured a lot, didn't look right. Well, that also can't be ignored. I just look at it like, it would be nice to have Blake Snell. And considering my biggest worry is Cashman is going to wait to the deadline to add a starting arm, and it's not going to be available, or they're going to want Spencer Jones or something like that, and then they're not going to get one. Kind of like last trade deadline. They thought they were going to get Cody Bellinger, but then all of a sudden the Cubs start winning. And
The Cody Bellinger, as James is paused right now, is did we lose you? There you are. The Cody Bellinger, the Yankees played themselves out of that one, unfortunately, when the Cubs came in on Old Timers weekend and won that series, and that was pretty much what propelled them into keeping him and making moves and trying to go for a run.
Yeah, you're basically asking for kind of like a Mets level disaster last year where like Verlander and Scherzer are there at the deadline because the Mets severely underperformed. And who knows, there could be a team like that, but there's more playoff spots now than ever. A lot of teams are going to want to make the playoffs. We saw the Angels last year buy at the deadline and it completely flop. So like it does, there are not sellers like there used to be. And Cashman's been around a long time. So maybe like, he still thinks like it could be.
But again,
like
I do give Cashman his flowers this offseason because
he
did address some holes and he didn't overspend. And, maybe they are making that case to quote unquote save money for Juan Soto. But I do want to talk about one trade that we just saw that came in. So the common theme of the New York Yankees, which again, I hate to say it, and I don't know why this team is cursed, is injuries in some way, shape, or form. And I think my biggest gripe, injuries always happen. It's unfortunate, and you obviously hope for the players' sake that they can heal and become better. This team just gets absolutely fucked with injuries. There's no better way to explain it. I mean, Gerrit Cole obviously getting, hurt this spring training was not on anybody's bingo cards, but the perception of how Aaron Boone, and again, I like Aaron Boone. I think he plays for his team. He plays for his guys. I think he could just use a little bit more PR training and just, make a couple better decisions. But the fact that this man always lies about injuries just loses my mind. Yeah. Long story short, we were told that DJ LeMahieu, who was our starting third baseman, that we're going to need obviously some production from. Bring back, the DJ LeMahieu we brought from Colorado into the play, hit a ball off his foot and bruised his foot and said he was going to be fine for opening day. Turns out that he is not. He is on the IL heading into the season. They had Oswaldo Cabrera slotted in to start third base. Meanwhile, we have Oswald Peraza, who is sitting in the minors, and they completely tanked his stock, so he will not be traded for anything, and he is now the next Clint Frazier, Miguel Andujar, whoever you want to add to that list of a player who started a playoff game 2 seasons ago for the Yankees. Neither here nor there. They are now showing their true colors that they do not believe in Oswaldo Cabrera, which is unfortunate because I love the versatility and the energy that Oswaldo Cabrera brings. I love his, switch hitting ability, his ability to play across, the infield and outfield. Clearly, they do not think he is a viable option. They have traded for John Berti with the Marlins and ended up making this a 3-team trade because for some reason the Yankees had 3 catchers on their roster, and Ben Rodvort now heads to the Tampa Bay Rays. So I have a few thoughts about this. I'd love to get your opinions first because, obviously we know Ben Rodvort as this mysterious catcher who came along from the Josh Donaldson trade and rarely saw a lick of playing time and was MIA for many, many months. Now he's going to become the next Yankee killer. But what are you thinking about this trade, James?
Goes from automatic out for the Yankees to kills us with the Rays. I mean, could totally see that possibly happening. How could you not like the move? Seriously, like John Berti for a needed position, right? Speedster can totally play third base for you. Nice utility guy. You need depth. You need depth because you're gonna lose a lot of these guys to injuries. So God forbid something happens to Volpe, you could play him at short. I just really like the move, and considering they didn't have to give up much to make it happen, I think it was a no-brainer. But what were your thoughts?
No, I mean, the guy 2 years ago stole over 40 bases, which was incredible to see. He's a very above, average third baseman. I think last season he had, 5 defensive runs saved, 294 hitter last year with a 748 OPS. Those are better numbers than a lot of the Yankees.
Yeah, high averages are very they're scarce sometimes. So getting him was huge.
I think additionally, too, as a versatility piece, he is someone who comes with 2 years of control. He can play short, second, third, and left field. We talked about the speed. We talked about the production and offense. I think that is a perfect fit once, gives DJ some time to at least regroup so he doesn't have to rush off the IL and the Yankees don't have to be too worried. And it's all about it's all about mixing the pieces. And they didn't really have to overpay for it, which was excellent. Moving off from Ben Rodvort, which finally gives the confidence that Austin Wells has a place on this team, which after the spring, he should have a place on this team. I know a bunch of Yankee fans were up in arms about why wasn't he starting for opening day. Obviously, Framber Valdez is a lefty. We're not going to do some lefty on lefty stuff. So, you have Jose Trevino, who I still think could be a very competent. I mean, he was a platinum glove winner for us 2 years ago. He was another player that was injured for us most of last season. So I think this was a very solid trade. And, looking at the opening day roster, which I don't know if it's officially announced, do we have an actual one? But according to MLB.com, it's looking like, we obviously know the starters, right? We already talked about the catchers. Anthony Rizzo's at first base. Gleyber is second. Anthony Volpe at short. John Berti would be slated at the third base spot. Your outfielders are Judge, Soto, Verdugo, and Trent Grisham. Your utility players, they have Jahmai Jones in here as well with Oswaldo Cabrera. I'm not sure if they're going to carry an additional utility player over a relief pitcher. And then, of course, Giancarlo Stanton. Your 5 starters in Cortez, Rodon, Stroman, Schmidt, and Heel. And then your relief pitchers with Clay Holmes at the closing spot, Nick Berti, Caleb Ferguson, Victor Gonzalez, Ian Hamilton, Jonathan Loaiza, Luke Weaver, and Clayton Beater. Tommy Kahnle starts the season injured. Any other? I mean, I'm looking to see if we have a confirmed, if there's anybody else here.
What are you going to be looking at most tomorrow? Because I know for me, the 2 pieces I'm looking at, how does Stanton look tomorrow and how does Nestor Cortez look tomorrow? Because if Nestor is Nestor from 2 years ago, that is a massive boost. But I don't know.
Yeah, for me tomorrow and this weekend series, again, tough draw with the Astros at the first part. The season is not over, win or lose. I really would love to see from Nestor Cortez tomorrow at least 5 strong innings, 5 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts, right? I would love to just see some consistency. I think the biggest thing that obviously killed Nestor last year was the change in the pitch clock.
Yeah.
Changed it up, his momentum, his flow, his cadence on things. But I do think he still has the talented stuff. Giancarlo Stanton obviously is a player who,
could he be worse than last year?
I think anybody can be worse. It's like, what was
probably, but I mean,
what was Stanton's stats last year? 2023 stats.
I know he was he 180? He was definitely as low as 180 last year batting.
191.
So it was 191, but there was a point in time where he was like 180 something.
Yeah. 191 with a 275 on base, 695 OPS, 24 home runs, 60 RBIs at 371 plate appearances.
I think it's going to help Stanton that there'll be people in front of him that can get on base now, with Verdugo possibly being batting in front of him. He'll probably start. I think he's starting in the back of the lineup, right? But I just look at it like, especially with Soto, Judge, like there's not going to be as much pressure on Stanton to just completely just dominate as in years past, especially with Soto there. I think it's kind of the opposite. People don't expect much from him at all. I really applaud him for really trying to change his body, stay healthy. He understands the New York market. He took the Cashman quotes like a man. You know what I mean? Like he took it and he's like, listen, I didn't obviously like what Cashman had to say, but I'm just what it is. And he did something about it, right? Like he's giving it his all to have a bounce back year. That average needs to be higher. I think he'll tell you. I mean, he just has to be. I've always said this about Stanton. His regular season numbers have always kind of been irrelevant to me, or like his regular season injuries have been a little irrelevant to me because he usually performs in the postseason. And last year was a situation where there was no postseason, so he didn't get that chance. He was obviously dealing with injuries last year, but just his overall performance, he looked like he shouldn't have even been on the field some days. So I'm looking forward to see what Stanton brings this year, and I'm rooting for him. I really am. I think all Yankee fans are rooting for him, right?
I think Giancarlo Stanton needs the approach that Philly fans took last year with Trey Turner. And, after he had a really sluggish start and this was their, big acquisition, they needed to, rally behind him and give him some energy behind it. In a perfect world, again, this roster is already being questioned because of the injury to DJ LeMahieu. They have Giancarlo Stanton at the 5 hole right now with this projected opening day lineup at Torres leading off, Juan Soto followed by Aaron Judge, Rizzo at cleanup, Stanton, Verdugo, Volpe, Trevino, and John Berti. In a perfect world, DJ LeMahieu is your leadoff, followed by Soto, Judge, and Rizzo. I think you then put Glaber at 5. I like Verdugo at 6, and you bump Stanton down to 7. I think 6 and 7 can go interchangeable. I like Jose Trevino at the 9. Anthony Volpe at the 9 hole, have some speed at the end of the lineup as well. But, I just hope for Giancarlo's standpoint, it's not all about smashing home runs. It's getting on base. But then again, do we trust him on base as much as we'd like, especially if he's not, having strong people underneath him, bringing him home. Yeah.
I think with Volpe, I think we'd like to see him possibly take over as the leadoff.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that.
With DJ and his age, you can't rely on him to be that for very long. Verdugo is probably only going to be here for a year. So it just comes down to like, can Volpe, because that's the second option I have. Like, obviously, like Glaber is going to lead off tomorrow, but like Verdugo can be a candidate to do that. He gets on base, right? Hits the contact. And
roster, I'm already looking at this roster and like thinking of the what ifs of when a Martian returns,
Yeah.
when a Jason Dominguez returns, when a DJ LeMahieu returns. And again, long season. It's March 27th, 28th as the first pitch goes off tomorrow. Can't think of it in the whole grand scheme of things, one series at a time. But going back to your original question, who are you really looking at? I'm looking to see how Aaron Judge is managing center field at a very high caliber now, if he is the starting center fielder, if that toe is going to bother him. And I'm just looking at the comfortability of Anthony Rizzo. I'm just hoping Anthony Rizzo comes back to, a defensive position of, just ultimate fortitude at first base and can provide that strong lefty approach at the plate. So those are my two biggest things. We'll see how this Astros series goes, but as we close out, we're always talking some, we want this to be a fan-centric show, and we have a comment from a Mets fan, but it's Sam Basil. Most anticipated new concession items. So the Yankees dropped some new concessions.
I don't even know what they are. What are they?
Let's see what they added to their hospitality menu. I saw the pictures come up. Let's see. Where was it?
Sorry, Sam, I reminded you about the Mets trade deadline. Yeah, that's my fault.
So we got from Street Bird a hot bird chicken sandwich, some chicken and waffles, as well as crispy chicken fries. Those look awesome. Those look probably also $40 at Yankee Stadium. Halal Guys is going to be over at the Great Hall in section 321. They got some new carts, so always good for a gyro platter. City Winery has some new menu options, as well as King's Hawaiian. The King Hawaiian sandwiches always do slap. Bobby's Burgers, they have a whole different bunch of stuff. That's Bobby Flay's Experience. Sumo Dog over at the Bleachers in 201. They got a sumo dog with wasabi relish, pickled peppers, spicy mayo, teriyaki sauce. Godzilla with beef chili, wasabi relish, pickled peppers. Benihana has some new menu options, and I saw some new brisket sandwiches over at Mighty Quinn's, which is always a fan favorite. Wings of New York, Jersey Mike's. What do they add? Well, why Jersey Mike's famous Philly cheesesteak? Why are we doing cheesesteaks in Yankee Stadium?
It's funny, bro. Like Jersey Mike, I don't know. Do you get the hot sandwiches at Jersey Mike's?
I always go cold cut. I don't go hot.
Okay, so there's someone I know who like Jersey Mike's wasn't that good. I'm like, what'd you get? And he's like, I got like a cheesesteak. I'm like, what the fuck are you getting a cheesesteak for at Jersey Mike's? You got to go to get the cold stuff, man.
I've never done a hot sandwich at Jersey Mike's.
But I love the Wolf of Wall Street.
Fucking Benihanas.
Oh, it's great.
Fucking Benihanas.
I've never.
The concessions at Yankee Stadium are always top tier. Definitely comes down to the price. But hey, I said this when they when they traded for Juan Soto. I will pay $50 for a chicken bucket if we keep this man in pinstripes. So,
dude, when I go to Yankee Stadium, I'm perfectly content with a cold beer in my hand, a nice Blue Point pinstripe beer in my hand, and a hot dog. That's it. I'm totally cool with it. That's all I need, really. I don't need anything crazy. Although, what's that place that sells the prime rib sandwiches? I know those are pretty good. I forget what it's called though.
Oh, that's what is it called? The LaBelle's.
Yes, LaBelle's. Yeah.
LaBelle's
that was like $20, and it didn't really fill me, but it was really good.
Yeah. Can't beat those. Can't beat those. So let's pray for, I say 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I hope.
But is this
just before we go, I just want to raise the question. It's like, this is an open American League, I would say. Wouldn't you say that?
I would say so.
So, like, as much as the Yankee fan base can be like, oh, we should have done this. I mean, there are Yankee fans who are literally giving Cashman an F for the offseason just because he didn't sign Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery. It's like, you're the Yankees, you spend everything. It's just like, okay, fine. You could say they spent a little bit more, but they did trade for a top player in the league. Does that not do anything? And I challenge the baseball writers. Does the Juan Soto addition mean nothing to you people? Like, does that mean nothing?
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, come on. It's got to mean something. I understand baseball, it's more than just one guy, but it allows them to, let's say Judge does get injured. You have Soto in the lineup. Like, they didn't have that last year. So I look at it like the people saying the Yankees are missing the playoffs. You either have some sort of agenda against the Yankees, because that's the only way I see it, because the team got vastly better. Shout out to Fuzzy. He has a great baseball channel. He said the Yankees offseason was an A. The only reason why it wasn't an A plus is because Soto's not signed. So you obviously got to wait till next offseason. You could say, oh, the Yankees don't have pitching, but there's a ton of teams in baseball, even good teams, that are not satisfied with their pitching. They're just not.
Listen, I mean, I still think the American East is a very competitive division, right?
Yes.
The Orioles are the clear cut right now, but I still don't consider them a lock, right? They're a very young team. I know they have new ownership that's willing to spend and move stuff around, and Corbin Burns is a great addition, but have them do it again, right? The Orioles haven't done much, and they had a very great season, but they also got, at the end of the day, there was three teams that made the three teams out of the American East that made the playoffs, and they all had the same amount of wins as the New York Yankees in the postseason. Zero.
Yeah.
So
listen, yeah. If you're going to bet who the division winner is and you say Baltimore, I'm not going to argue with you on that. It's just I get annoyed when it's like, oh, the Yankees won't make the postseason. It's like there's 3 wild card spots. You tell me they're not going to get one of those
they're a
with the talent
postseason
that they have?
team. I don't think the American League Central will command anything. That should be the Twins to walk away, if not the Guardians.
Yeah. Definitely the Twins, I would say.
The American League, the AL West, everyone still is very gung-ho about the Astros, and rightfully so, but the Texas Rangers went to and won the World Series last year. The Mariners have some good talented pieces across the board. I think the American League is very wide open, and to be completely honest, I also think the National League is too. The Braves are a very, they're clear cut above everyone, and everyone is very bullish on the Dodgers, but this NL West had a hell of an offseason across the board, besides the Rockies. But this Diamondbacks team has retooled. The Padres still have a very talented roster. The Giants have a whole new look. The Cubs are, an exciting team. The Cardinals expect to bounce back. The Phillies are still the Phillies. Sorry, Mets fans. I want to be more bullish on you, but just not the case.
I'll help out Mets fans a little bit. I thought JD Martinez was an excellent signing.
Good pickup,
especially for the value that they have. If I was a Mets fan, and my girlfriend's a Mets fan, I told her, I was like, listen, your season's going to be way better than last year. Okay. Last year was a massive disappointment. I'm not kidding right now. I would not be shocked if the Mets squeak into the wild card. I would not be shocked whatsoever. Considering JD Martinez is basically replacing Daniel Vogelback, it's huge. Alonso finally has protection in that line.
Their pitching, though, is a question mark.
Their pitching definitely is a question, but I like their bullpen, which was a massive issue last year, man. Like, they would blow leads like crazy, and Edwin Diaz coming in there is a massive return, because now, like, if you have a lead, and Edwin Diaz looked really good in spring training. So if Diaz is in there and the Mets have a lead, that's a win. So that's going to help them tremendously. And when it comes down to possibly, a game or two getting into the postseason, that could be the difference. And I look at that. So I look at the starting rotation. Yeah, not great. Well, the Mets starting rotation wasn't really that good last year. It was obviously you expected it to be way better, but it wasn't. Obviously, you're worried about Senga. You need Senga to be healthy. But I don't know. I like what the Mets did. I like Bader. Like, I've always been a Bader guy. Yeah, I think you know that. I've always rooted for Bader. I think Bader was an excellent acquisition as well. You hope for similar. Marte had a down year last year. Hope he's better. McNeil down year last year. Hope he's better. But Alonso should have a monster year. I mean, he's in a contract year. He wants to get paid. I mean, I know Mets fans want to keep him, and the more he plays well, the higher those dollars go up, but it helps them if they're looking to compete for the playoffs. But you're right. Starting pitching is, concerning. But there's guys in there that have performed in the past. You just don't know if it's as consistent as you need to be.
I don't want to count the chickens before they hatch, but I would love Pete Alonso and pinstripes. That's all I have to say.
I don't think it's not happening.
But
you know
that's all
why?
I have to say.
You know what? Steve Cohen didn't go after Judge. I know it's weird, but I think Hal and Steve have like this thing where they're not going to touch each other's fruit.
I mean,
I just don't know.
He could have went after Aaron Judge. He was always going to be a Yankee.
Yeah. I mean, considering that you're going to have to pay Soto next year, I feel like I can already see the Yankees offseason next year. Like, they're going to bring back Soto. If they bring back Soto, it'll be, that's it. That's the offseason. We got him.
Guess what? If it results in a World Series, I don't care if they only bring back him or if they don't bring him back at all.
Yeah.
I would love a World Series. That's all I ask for.
If the Yankees do lose one, so we talked about this a couple months ago. Spencer Jones is there, Dominguez is there. They'll have the Yankees. They'll figure something out. Now, I want Juan Soto back. I mean, he's young. He's worth that money you're gonna get for him. I mean, consider he's not 29 years old. I believe he's 25 or 26. So he's around that.
It's dumb young.
Perfect for this ballpark as well.
Yeah. Juan Soto, take home the MVP. Yankees, let's get the job done. But that is our show. We cannot believe it's opening day. Baseball is back. And any fan who ever wants to join, just drop us a DM. StreamYard link is open. We're here talking shop. Cool, fun, casual. But that's all she wrote for today. So thank you, James, as always. We are signing off from House Enterprise, and we will catch you the next time.